Senators Arthur.
Here.
Williams. Carter. Moon. Mosley.
Having established a quorum, we'll go ahead and begin to take testimony on, we have two bills. We'll start, I guess, Senator Washington has volunteered to go first. So we'll start with Senate Bill 795, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Senator Beck, he ceded to me. Okay. This is real simple. We already have a tax credit for domestic violence shelters and other nonprofits that provide shelter to domestic violence victims. This bill would basically extend that by two ways. One, if someone converts abandoned properties, which are extremely numerous in the state of Missouri, to a operational shelter for victims of domestic violence, they would be able to receive a $1,000 tax credit. And if you rent to someone who can prove that they have been a domestic violence victim, then you would get, as a private landlord, you would be able to rent a residential property and you get that tax credit for $500. And that is basically it. We know that just last year we had over 2,000, almost 2,100 new people asked for non-residential services. Almost 4,000 people asked for shelter. We had 134,000 nights of people, new people getting nights of shelter as a result of being domestic violence victims. So we just want to be able to have those folks have an opportunity to have somewhere to stay and have somewhere to get away for safety. And other than that, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Senator Washington. Any questions? Senator Carter, go ahead.
I just want to thank you for bringing this bill up. I have had several emails in regards to it, so just thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any witnesses who'd like to testify in support of 795?
All three of y'all can come up.
You want all three?
Yeah. Make sure you fill out the witness forms.
Senator Washington, you're not only doing your job, you're doing my job. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All over it.
You are helping. Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, afternoon, I guess it is now. My name is Angela Hirsch. I'm the Executive Director for the Rape and Abuse Crisis Service here in Jefferson City. We are a dual service agency serving survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking in 9 counties here in central Missouri. Our services include legal advocacy, personal advocacy, case management, counseling, and emergency shelters for those who are seeking a safe place to stay when it's not safe for them to stay at home. In 2023, we provided more than 18,000 services to more than 1,300 survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Of those survivors, 129 of them were shelter placements, meaning they needed to utilize our shelter for safety for themselves and for their children. On average, a shelter guest will stay at racks for approximately 210 days. That is 7 months. More often than not, survivors are ready to leave our shelter within 90 to 180 days, but they are unable to do so because they cannot find safe, affordable, stable housing here in central Missouri. We all know that Missouri, as a state, is facing a housing crisis and a housing shortage when it comes to affordable housing options, and central Missouri is no different. In my opinion, it's a little bit worse than in some other areas of the state. I want to thank Senator Washington for her efforts to help to address this housing crisis, as it does affect survivors of domestic violence, and this bill is an excellent first step forward. Senate Bill 795 has the potential to open up more housing options to survivors by incentivizing renting to those escaping violence. This is a vital step in ensuring that families escaping violence have options that allow them to create a life free from limitations, intimidation, and physical harm. That said, I do have 2 areas of concern that I would ask, I've already spoke with the senator about and asked to be considered. The first is ensuring confidentiality for domestic violence survivors. The confidentiality of survivors is one of my agency's highest priorities. I cannot stress strongly enough to you the importance of confidentiality for those who have been victimized by their partner. Domestic violence survivors are at their greatest risk of physical harm or death when they leave a violent domestic partner. If the victimization status of a renter is made public, then that risk will become even greater. So we've got to make sure that these families are protected. My second concern is that the housing standards for housing units that may be eligible for these proposed credits must be established. Too often I've seen survivors who are forced to live in substandard housing units that either do not or are not required to meet basic HUD housing standards. The results in moving from a home where violence threatens the health and well-being of a family to one where issues such as mold, electrical issues, and other health-related environmental issues threaten the health and well-being of a family pretty much weigh one another out. Should this legislation pass, I understand that these concerns may be addressed in the rules-making process. However, in order for this legislation to best benefit survivors of domestic violence, confidentiality requirements and housing standards must be addressed and a part of it. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Be sure to leave that witness form.
Yes, ma'am.
Next witness in support.
Hi, my name is Starla Wolf-Brennan, and I'm the Executive Director of Amethyst Place, a nonprofit agency in Kansas City, Missouri. Based on my years of experience in the social services field, I am here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 795. Safe and affordable housing is severely lacking in our state, and this disproportionately impacts survivors of domestic violence. I see this impact every day at Amethyst Place. We are a long-term supportive housing program in Kansas City's urban core. For over 23 years, we have helped families overcome houselessness, reunify children separated in foster care with their moms, and end generational cycles so that they can have thriving, successful futures. Safe housing has been the backbone of these transformations. Each year, we serve over 150 women and children recovering from generational poverty, substance use, and trauma. For 80% of the families we serve, these trauma histories include enduring domestic violence and the struggles to flee these abusive situations as single mothers with very limited resources. It is not uncommon for a survivor of domestic violence to experience financial abuse as well. Any sense of independence or freedom is taken away so that the violent partner can have more control over the person. The violent partner has all control over any access to money. The survivor has no access to funds, and any cash that they may have stored away is only enough for perhaps a cab or food. Now let's add children to this equation. How will they pay for daycare, for school, food, clothes, anything? How will they pay for a deposit for housing? It is also not uncommon that due to intimate partner violence, they have evictions on their record. This limits options even more. As a result, after these families bravely leave their abusive relationships, 100% of them are unhoused prior to entering our program. Making matters worse, our waitlist averages 50 families waiting over a year to receive safe housing and support through our program. This experience is shared by many other organizations that support survivors of domestic violence. In Kansas City alone, we lack an estimated 64,000 units of affordable housing for renters who have low incomes. This lack of affordable housing has a disproportionate impact on families with children under the age of 6. These families face additional challenges such as limited availability and the high cost of childcare, as well as limited opportunities for full participation in the workforce. Based upon the intersection of poverty and domestic violence experiences we see at Amethyst Place, many of these families would benefit from the creation of housing for survivors of domestic violence. Due to this extreme unmet need, we decided to get into affordable housing ourselves, and we are building 32 units of affordable housing, but that is just a drop in the bucket. We desperately need more safe housing options, and it will take all sectors to achieve this outcome. The tax credits offered in Senate Bill 795 would help incentivize the creation of more housing options for survivors. And we need more shelters for emergency housing, of course, to allow those families to flee that situation. We also need more landlords who are willing to rent to survivors of domestic violence, who may have rental histories and backgrounds that make them a less ideal tenant than someone who does not have these trauma histories. A tax credit for specifically housing this population may inspire some landlords to make more allowances for these circumstances. More safe housing resources are vital for survivors to escape abusive relationships, particularly for those with children who cannot risk being unhoused. By providing the tools to generate more housing for this population, we are paving the way for all the healing that must follow to help survivors of domestic violence achieve healthy, brighter futures. I ask you to please support this bill so that we are leveraging all the tools necessary to make this possible. And I thank Senator Washington for introducing this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none?
Senator, I do want to be transparent. I do serve on the board in an advisory position of Amethyst Place, so I just want to make that clear.
Thank you, Senator. Our next witness, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to say thank you so much for Senator Washington for inviting me here today. I'm honored to be here to give testimony for something that's very important. I'm Jessica McClellan. I'm the founder and president of Giving Hope and Help. We have several arms of outreach, and one of our arms of outreach is to provide period products to domestic violence shelters, and we've been doing such since 2013, having impacted over 50,000 women, girls, and menstruators. We eliminate that budget, that line item off of their budget, so that they can provide more housing and more education to the victims and survivors of domestic violence as well as their families. So this bill is going to be very important. It is very important to expand because it's going to provide a way of escape, which leads me to speak on our newest initiative, which is called A Way of Escape from Domestic Violence. Although Giving Hope and Help does not have a physical building or housing for domestic violence survivors, with this new initiative, what we are doing is providing resources, finances to women and those that are affected by domestic violence so that they can escape domestic violence. About 20 to 30 times a month, I get a phone call of a woman, even a man, that is seeking refuge from their situation. I cannot help them, but what we do is we support those that do have the housing. So this bill is important so that it will also help us do more for those and help provide them a way of escape and live in a safe environment. And I piggyback on what you said about making sure that it is a house that doesn't have mold and things like that. Even though these are survivors, they should still have the quality of life. And so that's important to mention in this bill. Also, this tax credit legislation is just needed for expansion to make a difference. And what we want to do here in the state of Missouri and across the country, of course, is to expand life and have a quality of life. That's what this is all about. Healthcare and domestic violence is a critical healthcare problem. It is a world healthcare problem. And so I stand before you, or sit before you, and say, please consider this bill, because it will make a difference. I want to make sure that I didn't leave any of my points out that I wanted to make. Actually, I do have one more point I want to make in one of the things that Giving Hope and Help is doing to support domestic violence survivors. December 9th was our 11th annual Feminine Hygiene Period Products Drive. And on that day alone, we donated 40,000 period products to 7 domestic violence shelters that were present at our event. And so they took those 40,000 products home with them that day, back to their shelter. And so what is that going to do? That's going to help them provide for those that they are serving in the domestic violence community. And that supports men as well. So it's not only period products, but it's toiletries and items of dignity. So these are some of the ways that Giving Hope and Help is making a difference. And so this bill being expanded would also help. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thanks for being here. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, Please be sure to leave your
I have a
witness form.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Mosley. Go
Is
ahead.
there a hotline number like how mental health has the 988? Is there something for domestic violence?
Yes, it is. It's actually 816 hotline in the Kansas City area. The national number is 799 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-SAFE. SAFE.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please leave your witness forms. Anyone else here to testify in support? Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Samuel Lee with Campaign Life Missouri to testify in support of Senate Bill 795. Very briefly, we find in our maternity homes and pregnancy resource centers in Missouri that many of their clients are survivors of domestic violence. It's not untypical for that to happen. And these agencies will tell you that the three greatest needs of their clients are child care, transportation, and housing. And for our maternity homes, they don't stay there forever. They have to find a place to stay, and it can be very difficult. This is a tool in the toolbox to help the clients of these agencies, pregnant and new moms, find a place to stay if they would otherwise qualify, which many of them will. So we're just very grateful for Senator Washington sponsoring this and hope this gets out of this committee quickly. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none. Any other witnesses in support?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Tricia Workman here today representing the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. I really can't say it any better than these three ladies did. And Sam, and I appreciate the Senator very much for bringing this forward. And with the protection of confidentiality and standards of living, I mean, we think this is a great idea and would fully support it.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any questions? Seeing none. Any other witnesses who'd like to testify in support? Any brave souls who'd like to testify in opposition? Anyone here for informational purposes? Seeing none. Senator Washington, any closing remarks?
And just thank you for letting us present it. And as we said, this is a much needed opportunity for those who are escaping from domestic violence and trying to get their life back on track. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 795. We'll now begin the hearing on Senate Bill 878. Senator Beck, please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I appreciate you letting me present Senate Bill 878. Protecting children is one of the few things that has near unanimous agreement from both sides of the aisle, and that is the main purpose of this bill 878, is a common sense legislation that would make sure that those who have been previously convicted of a crime where a child is the victim would not be awarded custody, guardianship, or unsupervised visitation of their child. We want to make sure that someone who commits a sex crime against a child will not be placed in an environment where they can commit a similar offense again, adding another safeguard to further protect our children. And Madam Chair and members of the committee, this bill actually did go through the Senate last year. I think it was altered a little bit with from a couple of the senators put something on there, and then it was altered again in the House. I left it the same as it was when I introduced it last year, and if that's the case, because we weren't sure if those other bills passed in another form, so we'll let that happen. And kind of wanted to keep this a tight subject line too. I think it's very important. It kind of goes with what you just heard, and I think it'd be an important bill to do. So I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Senator Beck. Any questions? Seeing none, any witnesses who would like to testify in support?
Yes, thank you. Again, Tricia Workman on behalf of the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. We appreciate the Senator bringing this bill forward and look forward to moving it ahead. I'll bring my witness form up.
Thank you. Any questions? None? Next witness who'd like to testify in support? Any witnesses who'd like to testify in opposition? Anyone here for informational purposes? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 878. I'll make a motion to...
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, sorry. Did you have any closing remarks, Senator Beck?
you
Anything not
again.
covered?
Thank you again.
Thanks. So I'll make a motion that we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. No one in opposition. I'm deciding for them. We are adjourned.